I learned, if you do what you say you're gonna do, your guys will stick with you. Your customers. Don't lie to them. And I used to go in there and say, look, I ain't gonna be the highest, I'm not gonna be the cheapest, but I'm gonna do what I tell you I'm gonna do. The customers I called on 15, 20 years ago are still customers of mine today in a whole separate business.
Mm-hmm. Street Smart podcast at the Cold War Technology Studios today. And Upright Digital decided they were going to move offices. So our studio's up in flux, so we keeps it moving. And we're over at Cold War Technology. So thanks, Lee, for opening up the place. And this studio is amazing. And we're talking to Roger, Big Raj Nevill, not related to Aaron Neville. We just established that. And Roger came as a request from James Hull. So shout out to James, and met you at Thrive, and really, really anxious to get your story. And I appreciate you making time to get over here today and sit and chat with us.
Man, I appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. So, I always like to start at the beginning. That's a great spot, right? So where were you born and raised?
So I was born and raised in Corsicana, Texas, just north of here a couple hours. I'm number 5 of 6, all boys. Weight-wise, I'm probably the smallest.
I'm not saying anything about that.
Yeah.
You just tried to trick me into getting canceled.
Yeah.
Good job, Roger.
But, born and raised right there in Corsicana. 5 brothers, and just, went to school, graduated. I didn't, but, I think 2 of my brothers graduated.
From high school?
Corsicana High. Lived there till, I guess I've been in Fairfield 22 years now.
You didn't move far.
No, not far. Not far of a commute.
No, not at all. Did you ever graduate high school?
I did not.
No GEDs, no nothing.
GED,
just said
nothing. Just, man, I went to work and
just free balling it out
that's
there.
That's it. And it bit me in the butt years later, because trying to get my kids they all graduated, but trying to get them to go to college. Like,
yeah.
Dad, you didn't.
Bro, so I have 2 daughters. One's 22 and one's 18. She's graduating this year. And talking to them, because I graduated high school, but I didn't graduate college. Been very successful, blessed beyond measure in that way. And same deal. Hey, well, you didn't go to college. I was like, first of all, I got really lucky.
Yeah.
Like I took some chances here and there that I didn't necessarily recognize were chances at the time. But looking back now, as a 48-year-old, looking back on your choices, you're like, I can't believe that worked out.
No,
but it did, and telling them like, it's you can do it.
You can do it.
But it can be a white knuckler from time to time. Yeah. When you're growing up, what'd you want to be?
I didn't know really. My dad grew up working in the oil field, and I kind of seen what that took a toll on him. Just health and
what was his role?
All of that. So my dad actually owned some workover rigs.
Oh, okay.
He had a small workover rig company there in Navarre County.
That's a tough line of work in the oil business, man.
It is, especially back then, because you didn't rack nothing back. You tailed it all out and laid it down.
Yeah.
He had a double pole job.
Mm.
It was a 50-something model International. I see it just if it was sitting here with us. Had a 460 Ford motor on the drawworks, run off propane. And so I really didn't have. I wasn't one of the kids like, hey, when I grow up, I want to be this. Later on, I had 2 of my brothers. My brother Mickey, that graduated high school, he went on to college, or actually he joined the military straight out of high school.
Which branch?
He joined the Army.
Okay.
He was an MP. He was in Seoul, Korea during when they had the Olympics. And his detail, him and another guy, they were in charge of the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders.
That's tough work.
Tough work.
That's tough duty there, man. Good grief.
And then my brother Mark, he went on and went MCC over. They got a pretty good criminal justice program. So he become a cop. So I kind of thought, well, maybe I'll become a police officer. Kind of, they didn't make near enough money to, kind of what I wanted to do.
Right.
So I dropped out of high school, and the first tax paying job I ever had was at the Collins Street Bakery in Corsicana, Texas, working in the mail room, running a envelope stuffer.
Okay.
Machine that stuffed the order forms in the envelopes and stamped them, and they went into a bag and got mailed off.
For like mass mailers and stuff?
Mass mailers.
Yeah.
And I remember working there, and there was countries I didn't even know existed. I mean, that's how I never had. I've known, the McNutts that own the bakery. They're local people, been there forever, and knew it was a big deal, but never to the extent.
Didn't know their reach.
No, man, it was amazing. So I worked there early summer. Then in the fall when fruitcake season started, worked there, through fruitcake season. When fruitcake season's over, everybody gets laid off. So my mom and dad had moved over to Waco, and then I ended up in Limestone County, Groesbeck, Texas. And there's a company out of Halton, Louisiana. It was a DI, Drillers Inc. They had 3 or 4 rigs over working for Marathon way back in the day. And I just walked up on the rig floor and, hey, I'm looking for a job. And they hired me on the spot, Back then,
pick that up.
no drug tests. I mean, literally, you filled out, where you want your check going to. So, man, I went to work for them, and that kind of what kicked it off. And I remember getting that first paycheck. That's when I decided I knew what I wanted to do.
Right. That helped you.
I mean, Collins Street Bakery, I don't remember what minimum wage was back then, but it wasn't much.
How old are you?
50. I'll be 52 to 27.
So I imagine it was about the same as when I was coming up my first job, and it was about 5 1/4, I think.
Yeah. So we was up there, and I remember I was making pulling slips. I was making $8.65 an hour and $15 a day per diem.
Were you killing the game?
I was killing it. So, man, that's what started it, I stayed there, I think them rigs went back to North Louisiana. I come across, it was a transition from Grace drilling to Neighbors. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd met a good friend of mine. He passed here a while back, but he was James Nash. He kind of pretty popular, in the oil field. He was Neighbors forever. And he gave me a job in South Texas.
This is on the drilling side.
On the drilling
Neighbors
side.
drilling, yeah.
So I had it was old Cadillac Eldorado. And I remember filling that thing up with gas in Groesbeck and going all the way down to Kingsville. And found the rig and went to work for Neighbors. I worked for them for a long time. And then come back up home, and FWA was drilling there in Limestone County. And I went to work for them. We was working 7 on 7 off for Neighbors. I come up there, FWA was working no days off other than between rig moves, but they was working 8s. 7 days a week, So I went to work for them, and that's probably the best drilling company I ever worked for. FWA, they're not around no more. I think it was Legacy Patterson now, probably. I think it was.
Yeah, I was going to say someone probably sucked them up into their.
Bought them up. Yeah, they was owned by Marathon for a long, long time. And that was back when U.S. Steel owned Marathon and FWA. Went to work for them. Man, it just kind of bounced around all over the state of Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, New Mexico working. My longest, or probably worked for Neighbors more than any of them. Even back then, they were kind of the big dog on the block on the drilling side. Then I come home. I went back home to Corsicana, ended up getting married, and I went to work offshore. I had a cousin of mine that was an OIM for it was WT Offshore, I think, and it was on an R&B Reading and Bates rig, and I went to work for them right when Transocean had bought them out. Literally, they just changed the name, and man, I'd done that for probably about 2 years, and that was neat because I had no idea what a top drive was.
Oh,
Never seen a top drive. Back in on them old Landers, compound rigs, Hella Motors was right behind the Drawworks, you know.
Yeah.
Didn't even have diesel electric rigs hardly. And watching that, you know, seeing that top drive, and then they had iron roughnecks, and didn't use the iron roughneck a whole lot. But one thing that probably, it didn't fascinate me, but I was like happy for it, was no spinning chains.
No chains.
No chains.
Yeah.
I was always got chose to throw chain because I'm left-handed, so it was a natural
Oh, no kidding.
whip of the chain. So, and boy, you talking about hard on your hands,
And you have all your fingers still, which is impressive. That is impressive.
Exactly. So, but yeah, that was an experience. And then I had 2 kids. They were little, and ended up going through divorce. Got custody of my kids through that, so I come back, couldn't walk offshore too much, so that's how I ended up Freestone County. Back when the Bossier Shell was real popular, and you know, at one time there was 300 rigs, you know, Freestone Limestone County back then, and neighbors probably had the biggest presence at the time. So I'd called my old buddy James and told him I was wanting to, you know, come to work on shore and da 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 da. So I ended up went down there and went to work and worked down there I've been there ever since.
In that county.
In that county,
Yeah.
right there. I mean, them rigs, you know, the multiple well pads they wasn't doing that then. But I mean, you talking about rig down and move a mile across the pasture.
Right.
It was crazy.
They're doing that all the time.
All the time. I mean, you could sit there, you could drive down 45 and just look either direction and just count rigs.
Yeah.
You know, from the lights. And but man, it was some fun.
We can't
times.
do that now.
No. There's gas prices. You know, that's just a gas play, and gas prices have really kind of tore that up. But it was cool back then. It was cool. There's a lot going on, and a lot of people. I mean, the population of that county probably tripled, and you know, kind of like West Texas. But if you can take West Texas and condense it to a 2-county area,
Yeah.
I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, like you're seeing in West Texas now, you know, that infrastructure, it takes a while to catch up.
It does.
And the other interesting thing is, like, you know, I was born and raised in Midland and have a lot of family still there. And I get asked whenever I go back, a lot of times I'll get asked, would I ever move back there? And I never say no. What my answer is, I don't necessarily want to live in Midland the way it is now, because there's the workforce and stuff that's there, absolutely necessary. They're not from the area. They don't really have any real interest in staying in the area, so they don't mind
care.
messing the area up. And I think that's what you're seeing. I bet you guys saw that there too.
When I was out there, you know, that was that RV park I told you I stayed at.
Yeah.
That was one thing that I really liked, other than it was the only park that had trees you could actually stand under. But
You
that
get under
guy-
a mesquite bush sometimes.
these were big ones though.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I was able to park my RV under one.
That's impressive.
And it had a swimming pool.
Well,
So, but that guy was really, when you went to talk to him about a spot, it's almost like a job interview. What do you do?
it's
Where
particular.
you from? Do you drink? You ever done drugs? I mean, he was real particular. And when you was in there, you could see. I think I was probably the only single person living in the park. Everybody, it was families. You know, it was welders that had their wife and kids, or a company man that had wife and kids. So it was cool. And that was the only positive I have about West Texas.
Yeah. Except that there's always work out there.
There's always work.
There's always work out there. Even when it's down, you can make a living.
I go out there about once a month for a week at a time now, and
Yeah.
you know, it's just kind of, you know, being in the oil field. That's part of it.
So pretty early on, after you decided you're out of school, you figure, man, having watched your dad be in the oil and gas industry, did you have an aversion to it? Like, did you say at any point, man, I don't want to do this, until you started doing it, and then you were like, man, I'm in?
You know, my dad, you know, and everybody, or most guys, think of their dad being the man's man. My dad was. My dad was a big man. My cousins and uncles worked for my dad, and hearing the stories they used to tell you, you know, about, man, Uncle Buddy done this, Uncle Buddy done that, or I remember when Uncle Buddy done that, kind of make it, well, I'm going to be that, you know.
Right.
So it was cool, you know. and so it didn't take much for me to figure out that that's what I wanted to do after I started it. My dad, he was a hard man, but because he worked all his life, but you're gonna go to work, or you're gonna go to school. I don't care which one. He wasn't like when I was sitting in math class my sophomore year, so a little annoyed. Me and my cousin, I passed him a note. I'm going to the beeping house. He got up and we both left. Went to the house. What are you doing? Quit school. Get a job. That's kind of the way it was. So
Right.
But once I kind of got a taste of it, and it was I love the job.
It definitely gets in your blood. I mean,
Yeah,
I've been in oil and gas, being raised in Midland. That's just what you do. My dad owned service businesses, as a kid, and I watched all of that and watched the ups and downs of that. And I tell you what, man, I've been in oil and gas now, going on the better part of 30 years. And for about a 1.5 year period, I got out of oil and gas and was in the tech industry, and realized, while there's some amazing people to do stuff over there that I can't do, those aren't my people.
Mm-mm.
And when I came back to the oil industry, I was like, these are my people. These are my people.
What's that old saying? Once you drink out of the water can?
Yeah, well,
one drink out of the water can,
you're in, and nothing you can do about it. But so at this point, you're back in the county you live in now, and then you're in oil and gas. You've been working for drilling companies now. You've done onshore, offshore. At what point do you start looking at it and going, man, I might want to try to do something on my own? And tell me what that looks like, and kind of what your entry point into, sort of the green energy space and all of that. And you're one of the first adopters of that green energy space. I kind of want to hear how you identified that as being someplace you wanted to move into, and what made you think the audacity, right?
Yeah.
To what made you think you could do that?
So when I was working in Freestone County, working on the rigs, everybody went to an 8-4 or 6-3 because hands was hard to get and local people was working. So on my days off, back then they were everybody's recycling the drilling mud. We didn't do the oil base and all this, all water based mud. But when they got done, they had trucks come out there and pick it up, haul it. Newpark had a yard there. Halliburton had a mud yard.
I think there's a Horizon yard in between there too.
So they would haul it back. They'd recycle it, and then when you got past your surface casing, they'd bring the mud back. So I got to just chewing the fat with one of them guys out there, and they would always, Newpark send them drilling hands out there, or the mud hands out there, and I got to being buddy with one of them, and me and him got to talking, and the company that was hauling the mud was actually a company out of Pearland that put a yard up there. It's called, I think they don't exist no more, but it's called Gulf Coast Vacuum Services. And my buddy with Newpark, he introduced me to the guy that was running the yard, and we ought to go up there to the Dew High School, or elementary school, little elementary school. We go up there. I know I'm a big guy, but we go up there and play basketball. In the evenings, company men would come up there. That was kind of the hub because it's a dry county, so there's not a whole lot of bars. So it was a good thing because Roughnecks, you had to drive so far, so they'd all go buy a case of beer. We'd go up to the school of all places, play basketball, and drink, hang out. So I got up there talking to him, and I overheard this guy Chuck saying, is looking for a sales guy to go out and call on these rigs because they would get so many, hauling that mud. They'd charge it so many barrels in and so many barrels out. And I went up and told him, I said, what do you want to do? And I said, man, I can do that. He said, what do you do now? So I work on drilling rig. He said, you do? He said, what do you do? I said, that time I was a derrick hand. So I'm a derrick hand for neighbors. He said, huh? So he said, well, can you come by the office in the morning? So I went by there, and we made a deal, and he said, I'll pay you so much a week, and take that old white truck out there. It's an old white Ford. He said, go out and call them. And I knew all these guys, knew all the company men. We all played basketball. A bunch of them was local. We're not that far from Palestine and the East Texas oil field stuff. And, man, I started calling these guys, and, I was getting all I could handle, all they could handle. The truck stayed busy, and da-da-da-da-da. And then Chuck come to, I guess about 2 months into it, and I'd go work my days on the rig, and I'd come back and hustle for him on the side on my days off. And he said, "Hey," he said, "why don't you come to work for me full time?" I said, "What's it pay?" He told me, and I kind of done the math, on a napkin, and I thought money wasn't that much better, but I ain't got to pull pipe in the snow or in the rain in the 32-degree weather and all that, so I'll do it. So I went to work for them, selling, going out and hustling work. And then there was a company, I met some guys, they're from down here, is a company called Bayou Tank. And they was a frac tank rental company. And they had come in and tried to buy Gulf Coast. And the deal fell through. And the guys that owned Bayou, he come to me and said, "Hey, we want to hire you to come to work for us." I'm like, they put a little more dollars to the check, so I went to work for them. So and they were just in the frac tank rental business. And we kicked that thing off in 2001.
So you helped them start it.
Yes. At this time, I had made some really good relationships with XTO. El Paso back then had a big presence there. Anadarko. Those were the three big ones there. Marathon was still in the play, but these other guys had, 25, 30 rigs each. I remember you go down under the ranch, down the Hunt Ranch, and you could chunk rocks from one rig to another, and it'd be a fence. XTO on this side of the fence and Anadarko on here, and they just kind of chase each other. It's crazy. So, anyways, I went to work for them, and man, it was great. Probably next to running my dad's old international workover rig at one time, this was probably the best job I had. Great guys. They love their people, and they took care of everybody. Took care of the drivers. So man, we just started working and growing, and they bought 6 or 7 brand new old, Kenworth W900 Kenworths, and you should have seen these trucks, Justin. Stretched out Kenworth, chrome. You thought they was bull wagons, and the trailers were LSU purple. The door, gold, Bayou, outlined in purple, LSU purple, Bayou Tank.
Well, this is what happens when you let coon asses buy trucks, by the way.
These guys wasn't from Louisiana.
Oh, my God.
Houston, Texas.
Well,
all Aggies.
Of course.
All of them are Aggies.
Of course.
So there's a story behind that purple. But anyway, so, man, they bought these trucks, so getting drivers, man. But we had drivers lined up down the road. I want to go to work for y'all. I want to go to work for y'all. I want to go to work. And we just started buying trucks. And I don't know, we got to probably 25 or 30 trucks. And I was running the yard. I was running sales, running the yard. I had 2 or 3 truck pushers. And I just really advanced with them. And we had a few frac tanks we was renting here and there. And at this point, XTO was the cock of the walk down there. Anadarko dwindled off. XTO had 40-something rigs. They had 4 different fields. And each superintendent kind of had his own program. And
so he's kind of left to run his own area.
So I'm running my area, and I've got 35 or 40 tanks sitting that you could use in your field, but you didn't know it. You follow me? So I was down there with a buddy of mine, and it was Gary Paul. That's his last name, Paul. Gary Paul.
Man with 2 first names.
Palestine, Texas. Good friend of mine. He was superintendent for XTO in Ball Prairie. You know where that's at?
No.
Franklin.
Okay.
All that area down there. And I told him, I said, do you think Tyler, we always referred to Tyler, it was their area office. I said, do you think Tyler would let me have all these tanks down here if I come up with a program that we supply all the tanks and we're in charge of we get the frac schedules. And you don't have to worry about calling for tanks here. If I don't have enough for you, you got to call Key or Pool or whoever. It's all one company. You turn all that over to me, and I'll make sure everybody's covered. He said, I think it'd be perfect. So I go back, and I'm thinking, I go back to one of the owners at Bayou, and I told him about it. He said, I don't think Tyler do that. So I call, he's retired now, but his name's Coy Barrett. He was the purchasing manager. Great guy. I call him, hey, I'd like to come talk to you. So I go over and talk to him, and we're sitting there talking. I said, I got an idea I want to run by you. And I told him. He said, well, how's that going to work? And I explained it all to him in very good detail. He said, I think that might work. He said, let me get with the bosses and get back with you. Man, 2 days later, he called me. He said, hey, he said, Ken wants to talk to y'all about this. He's very interested in it. So I'm like a little kid, you know. I'm driving 90 miles an hour to the office, talk to the boss. And greatest mentor in the world, it was Nyron Devenish from Trinidad. He was one of the owners of Bayou. And I called him, went in there and sat down, and I told him, he said, I don't think Tyler do it. I said, I just got off phone with Coy. He wants us up there next week to talk to Ken about this. He said, are you serious? I said, yeah. My plan was for 500 frac tanks. So we go up there. They buy it. We get a take or pay 500 frac tanks over 3 years. Pay for them whether they use them or not. We're in charge of it. Sell it, everything. And chest swells up, cool. So now we got to figure out how to finance these bad boys. So that's when I met all the guys at Dragon. Mr. Crenshaw himself had come down. We talked to him, and they had some options. They could help a little bit on the financing, but Mr. Agee, that actually started and owned the company, he called and said, I'm going to be down next week with my bankers. I need you to be available. I need you to put some clothes on besides your bib overalls and your steel toes.
The hat that needs an oil change and all of that.
And I said, okay. I said, what? He said, I need you. We're going to ride these guys around, and we need to explain to them what it is we do for a living, what we do. They have no idea. I thought, okay. Get the office and start Schneier's on. These 4 guys from Frost, and 3 of them get in the truck with me, and they follow. We go to 3 or 4 different locations and talk to them about it, and man, they do the deal and sign, seal, deliver, and we call Dragon, order 500 frac tanks, and this is like September. We got to have them by like January 1. Can y'all do it? You know, I remember Mr. Will saying, "Do you ever seen our logo?" I said, "No, I never paid no attention to it. Make it happen." Hook it up, and they did. They delivered every one of them bucks in that time frame. So, anyways, we just went to work. And as you know, the frac tank business, it growed our vacuum truck business. And in 2005, we flipped it to Stallion. Undisclosed amount of money, but it was
substantial.
Thick. It was thick. So I chose not to stay. I thought, I'm gonna try something different. So my absolute best friend in the world named Keith Rand, and I'd called him his insurance salesman. I said, I got an idea. He said, what is it? I said, I'm going to the light plant and generator rental business. He said, yeah. And I done made all these relationships. I done some due diligence. So we put together this business plan together. We go to the local bank, and they laugh at us. I'm trying to borrow, $500,000. And remember the old banker, he's like, I got to give it to you. But I said, y'all got to bring some help in on this. What Keith's family was in the fuel distribution business, and his dad owned part of it. The banker knew that, so we ended up having to get Keith's dad in on the hook, sign the papers for us. So we started Vaquero Energy. Vaquero's cowboy in Spanish. So man, we started that, and man, we was a year into it. We was kicking ass. We had anywhere from a 50 kW down light plants, because back then water wells was a big deal, and the drilling rig would leave. We'd put a generator to fill the frac tanks and the frac ponds with water. So every location had a generator on it. So we had, probably 70 or 80 of them suckers out by this time.
And so you're doing generators and light plants?
Light plants.
Right, okay.
And we get about halfway through that deal, and we're just kicking it, and a friend of mine called, and he said, hey, he said, why don't you come to work for me? I said, doing what? He said, I bought these vacuum trucks. He said, I need some help. Well, they had I don't know, probably 7 or 8 saltwater disposal wells. And the bigger companies, Key and Stallion, were coming in, drilling their own disposal wells, so it was taking business away from him. And I said, man, I don't know. I got this going on. He said, what if you could do both? I mean, come to work for me. You can still do that. Just, I need some help. So I went to work for him, and man, we went from 20 trucks to 160 in like 3 years. And I had sold my interest in Vaquero out to Keith and his dad, kind of laser focused on this. And Billy had told me when I went up there, I said, what is your goal, man? I said, what is your goal with this? He said, I want to grow it, and I want to buy the Dallas Cowboys. What he told me. And I told myself, a man that dreams that big, I have to go to work for him. I got to.
Right.
So
when he said that, was he like stone cold serious? Like,
seriously, heart attack.
I'm buying.
This was before.
Pick a better team, huh?
This was back when they were still at the old stadium.
That's fair.
This is the old Cowboys.
Okay.
I think the sucker, if he had the money today, he'd still buy him. He's Jerry Jones. He bleeds Jerry Jones.
Well,
can't fault him.
So did you see what they did in free agency this year?
I don't pay a lot of attention to all that.
So they lost a bunch of players and picked up none.
Oh no, I did hear all the rumble about all that.
No one's real happy about that.
I seen it. I did see a deal on the fake news that said Elon Musk bought him.
That didn't happen.
No, I was like, how cool would that be though?
It wouldn't surprise me.
If he's got the money.
He does. Yeah, he does.
And he's probably smart enough to buy it and let somebody else run it and go and play with his electric cars. Instead of like Jerry's like.
Jerry Jones is something else, man. That's a whole different. That's a different animal.
No story.
Different animal. But going back to something you said though, you took it from where it was to you grew it exponentially. Mm-hmm. What did you and I think that's invaluable. What you ask him right away before you go into work. Like what do you want to do? And his answer gave you some insight into how he thought about things. Yep. What did you do when you got in there strategically to grow that business like that?
So I leveraged my contacts through the years of doing this. And, I'm not going to toot my own horn, but I learned, if you do what you say you're going to do, your guys will stick with you, your customers. Don't lie to them. And I used to go in there and say, look, I ain't going to be the highest. I'm not going to be the cheapest, but I'm going to do what I'll tell you I'm going to do. And so that followed me. So I had a pretty good customer following that would work for me. And we just went in there and we started a brand new yard in Tig. And we ended up capturing all that XTO work that Stallion paid Bayou for. And we grew it. We started a yard in Victoria.
The same work that you'd gotten for Bayou.
Yeah.
You got back now for this guy.
Yeah.
That's the way it works, man.
That's the way it works.
That's the way it works.
We started a yard in Victoria, put one in the Barnett when the Barnett first started getting and going. And it just, man, I don't believe in luck, but some of my guys that I used to call on that I got really close with in the Tyler office transferred to Fort Worth because they were up for promotions and stuff. So I just like, hey man, remember me? And we had a yard in Cleburne.
Well, that's not luck, by the way.
Yeah.
That's, like you said, leveraging a relationship. And those relationships, the oil and gas industry is all industries are relationship driven. Mm-hmm. This one is especially
very
relationship driven.
Yeah.
And people that you know now that are just that entry-level engineer, you give that guy 15 years, and I bet he's going to be a hell of a contact for you if you did him right.
Yeah, it's like the customers I called on 15, 20 years ago are still customers of mine today in a whole separate business. Mm-hmm. But it was little stuff that, I had 2 customers that, everybody had the stamp. That stamped their tickets, put the AFE in and all that, and then sign it. I'd get to the office at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'd sit there and stamp tickets that, you give me your stamp. I'd do everything but sign it. I had that level of trust that they knew they didn't have to go look at the pricing. They didn't have to see if I was, hitting them on hours and stuff.
Putting needless surcharges and whatnot. You were just, it is what it is.
My guy at El Paso sold a hunt. He went to North Louisiana, Kickapoo. You know where Kickapoo is?
I've heard of it. I've
Right
not.
outside of Shreveport, man, ain't nothing ever a truck stop. He was up there and he calls. He said, "Hey, I need all the vacuum trucks I can get." I said, "Where?" He said, "Kickapoo." I said, "Man, we can't round trip that." He said, "No, I want you to bring trucks up here. I want you to leave them." I said, "I can't do that." I talked to my bosses. I called him back. I'm like, "Hey," I said, "if you'll pay per diem and this, that, and this is before anybody knew what per diem really meant."
Right.
And they did it. He called, the office. He said, "Hey, we need to do this." So we went down there. We was down there, man, for like 3 months until the Louisiana Highway Patrol seen the Texas tags on the LSU trucks, and they made us go home. But he done that, and then in Canadian, he carried us to Canadian. I carried 6 trucks to Canadian and worked for him. So it was just, that I've been able to do that through the rest of this story, to get me where I'm going. So and we sold the Bayou, or sold Azurite to Basic Energy, and I hung around about that long, and I had been reading and hearing some chatter about the new LNG, the C15 Cummins, the ISX LNG motor, and they were just coming out with them, and I was researching them, and I'd called some of the dealers, Kenworth dealers that we dealt with, and some Peterbilt dealers, and can you get in a day cab? What's the range? Where do you get fuel? And just started kind of pulling all this information together, and I was working for another vacuum truck company, just really ought to be ashamed of myself. Really wasn't doing a whole lot of nothing, drawing a paycheck. I was at home kind of dealing with this deal, and I got it put together, and I went to Tyler to see he's the vice president over the East Texas region, a guy named Ken Kirby. He's retired today, and had a great relationship with him. And said, "Man, I got an idea." He said, "What is it?" "I want to buy some vacuum trucks and go to work for myself." He said, "We'll support you." I mean, why wouldn't we? I said, "Well, let me finish the rest of my story. I want to buy some natural gas trucks." He said, "What are you talking about?" And I was up there like half a day and laid it all out and showed him pictures of the trucks and, everything about them. Where was it going, clean energy. We're going to get fuel right here in Willis, Texas, truck it up there to Fairfield, get trucks. And I said, this would be great. You guys drilling gas wells, using gas, operated trucks, and I was selling him on all this.
We're using the product that you guys are producing.
Yeah. And he said, "Let me think about it." And it wasn't long after that he called, and I went back to Tyler and met with the whole group of guys, and they're like, "We'll do it. What do you need from us?" And I said, "Well, I need a contract." And they kind of looked at me because you didn't contract vacuum truck services back then, And I said, to get the money that I need to do this, I need a contract, And Ken said, "Okay." He said, "Well, have something sent to me to look over." So I sent it to him, and then I go to my banker that turned me down for the $500,000 to start Vaquero and tell him what I'm doing. And I said, "Man, I need some help." He said, "Doing what?" I said, "Financials and stuff like that. I need some help." So he helps me, and we get in front of a private equity brokering firm out of Dallas. And we get an appointment with them. We go up there, and we pitch them the deal. And it was for 20 trucks and 20 trailers. And, I don't know, what, $10, $11 million worth of stuff. They love the concept. And they said, "This is going to be an easy deal to do." I said, "All right, well, what we need to do?" So we need to talk about the contract. So they helped me draft what the contract needed to look like to send to XTO.
The private equity company said, "Hey, man, So at
the
that point,
brokering firm.
Got you. So at that point, you had to believe pretty strongly that this is going to happen, right? Like,
Man, I was like stoked.
sure.
So I get it. I send it to Ken. He said, "We're going to have it reviewed." Well, then the guys in Dallas call and say, "Hey, we need to talk." I go up there. And I want to think, Justin, it was $20 million because it was a yard, office, and
Operating expenses, equipment. Yeah.
Because this was a flat startup.
Right.
Flat startup.
From ground up, we're building a business.
And I'm up there, and I'm in front of actually the owner of this firm, and he's just going on and on and on how, man, cool, this is going to be a big deal.
The owner of the private equity firm.
Yeah. He said, but here's a problem. I'm like, what? He said, it is 10 times easier for us to raise 50 million than it is 20 million. And my jaw dropped.
That's interesting.
And I asked him, I said, how's that? He said, 20, he said everything under 50 million is super wealthy families. That's what he told me. He said super wealthy families. And we have some of those. But it's easier for us to go to the big PE firms and raise the money. And
that are dealing with pensions and annuities and all kinds of things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he said, do you think XTO would, do they have that much work? I said, oh, yeah. They got everything from Fairfield to College Station. I'm asking for, less than 10%, That's all I wanted to do. One-man show. I could run it all by myself. Secretary doing some billing. Safety guy / truck pusher type stuff.
Easy. That's what I do now. Safety guy's a good guy.
Yeah. And so I go home and I ponder on it for a long time. And I called Ken and I said, I need to talk to you. You got some time to see me? I'll come tomorrow or the next day or something. So in the meantime, I'm sitting here. I have worked down there for so long. I knew more about their operation than they did. I knew every drop of water, how much, damn near to the gallon of what they produced via truck, number of frac tanks, everything they did. So I put it together and 60 trucks and 500 frac tanks. And I start putting pencil together and we're at 50 million. So I go to Ken and I told him exactly what that private equity firm told me. And he said, well, what are you proposing? I said, why don't you give me everything from Fairfield to College Station? I said, it'd be easier for y'all dealing with one company, one billing type of software.
Yeah, all the headaches on you to figure out the logistics.
Exactly. And he kind of said, man, I don't know. I might have to think about it. About a week later, he summons me back up there in the round table with all the people. And he said, we'll do it. And I looked at him and said, excuse me? He said, we'll do it. He said, we have faith enough in what because from my career in the transportation business was with them, for the most part. And we talk and I get in the truck and I'm headed back to Teague. And I couldn't even call and tell my wife this time. I didn't know what to say. I'm like, so I call my guy in Dallas and I said, hey, you ain't going to believe this crap. He said, what? And I told him. He said, are you serious? I said, I'm serious as I am. Sitting, talking to you on the phone. He said, we need to get the ball rolling. I said, yeah, no. So I go home.
You can say cuss words, right?
Well, I go home and we talk about all this. I have the contract drafted, and I'm like, I'm going to deliver it to Ken. I'm not going to just email it.
Yeah, that's a hand delivery.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So I call him. I go up there, and he reads it. And literally he's reading it, and I thought, well, he's going to send it to legal or something. He's reading it. He said, okay. He said, I have a couple of conditions to do this. And he said, we ain't got to put it on paper. I said, what? He said, you got to quit your job today while you're working on this, because I was working for a vacuum truck company that was currently working for him. He said, you need to go talk to Sonny and Chad and see if y'all can't make a deal. These were two really good friends of mine that was in the vacuum truck business. They had, I think Sonny had 8 trucks, Chad had 8 or 9, but I was literally putting them out of business by this deal. Basic Energy, Stallion, Key, all these other vacuum truck companies that have been working for XTO was fixing to go away come January. That was their time frame. And those two had been with him a long, kind of like me. So
they were independents.
They were independents. They wasn't majors,
okay.
Independents. So
he's basically saying, go all in on this thing. Right. Burn the ships, go all in, put some real skin in the game for yourself and take care of these couple of independents that have done us a good job for a long time.
Yep.
That's good, man.
He's a good man, and it worked out good because Chad Kendall, me and him went to school together back home. He's from Corsicana. I helped him get his start in the vacuum truck business because he used to handle all of my overflow at Bayou.
He's one of the independents.
One of the independents. Sonny Yates, he's from back home. Sonny, about half-ass raised me and Chad because we all went to school with his boys. I mean, it was a close-knit. It's kind of like everywhere else. If when the oil field went to booming down there, anybody and everybody had a little bit of credit at the bank or had a little bit of money in savings, they found something to do in the oil field, whether hot shotting, trash trailers, porta potties, vacuum trucks.
You can always make a living.
I always make a living. So I called Chad, and Chad had already knew about this deal. I'd already, and I told him what Ken said, and he kind of went, I said, we need to talk. He said, okay. Well, I called Sonny, told Sonny what happened. And Sonny, you just got to know Sonny Yates. Oh, bullshit, there ain't no way they're going to, you're full of shit, blah, 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 blah. I said, okay, whatever.
I got a contract, man.
I don't know. It was 3 or 4 weeks later. Chad calls. He said, man, where you at? I said, I'm at the house. He said, well, meet me and Sonny up at Sam's. I meet him up there. They had just got back from Tyler talking to Ken. And I remember Chad looking at me. He says, I don't know how in the fuck you did this. I said, what? He said, Ken looked me dead in my eyes and told me it'd be my best interest to figure out how to make a deal with you. He said, I think I'm dealing with the mafia, And I just laughed.
Wait, and when you say, well, I'm in the transportation business, I mean, come on. It's that or the what is it, garbage or something?
Yeah, garbage business.
Yeah.
So we come up, and I'm like, look, all right, this is where I'm at. I told him exactly where we was at. I said, man, I ain't even got the money put together yet on this. Let me go to work. So dealing with the broker firm up in Dallas, and they make me go buy 2 suits, a blue one and a brown one, or blue one and blue one and a brown one. And
they're gonna take you out on the road, man.
We go to New York. Never been to New York City in my life.
Yeah,
they put us right there at that Holiday Inn Express on Times Square.
I've never been to New York, so I'm listening to you.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
we fly in there at late night, and my banker buddy that's helped me with my financials, I've offered him a little piece of the pie to help me. And so me and him's up there, and he's from Mahia, Texas. I mean, it ain't much, little Bodunk town.
Yeah. Anybody who looks at that would call it Mexia. But it's Mahia.
Home of Anna Nicole Smith.
Is it really?
That's where she was born and raised. Worked at Jim's Crispy Chicken. They got a picture of her in the chicken house.
Of course they do.
Yeah.
Just like in Atoka, Oklahoma, they got Reba everywhere. But yeah, you got their one. That's their one.
We get to New York, and I'd never seen nothing like it. We first thing we do is go to Times Square, and I guess New York's like Vegas, man. It never sleeps. There's thousands of people at Times Square. So, anyways, that next morning, man, we're Goldman Sachs, the Carlisle Group.
Did you go with the blue or the brown first day?
I don't remember.
Come on.
I know they told me I had to swap them every day. Didn't want to,
Yeah, yeah.
But probably blue. That's more my favorite color.
I'd probably go with blue first day. Yeah.
But we end up, I don't know, Goldman Sachs, the Carlisle Group. Man, there was about a half a dozen of them. And then we come home, and we come to Houston and see Tudor, Pickardine, and Holt, White Deer, all of the, anybody's here. And we'll go to Chicago, end up in L.A., and I will never go to L.A. again a day in my life.
I don't blame you.
Then we go to Dallas. They're actually in Dallas. And, man, we're just doing it and
road showing,
sharing our story. And so we do our road show. We have multiple offers come in, and we ended up going with a PE firm out of Dallas.
So you're looking for how much? 50?
So it was 50 or 60 million is what we was asking.
Did you get oversubscribed?
No, we ended up with 56 million.
Okay.
Private equity, and then we had some outside financing
to get you
to get the whole deal put together. And I kind of explain what in a minute, but we ended up going with a local private equity firm there out of Dallas.
How funny. You went all over the country and ended up right back
I know
where you started.
They had a couple of oil field service companies in their portfolio, and but they own the largest cab company in Dallas.
Like taxi cab.
Taxi cab.
I bet they hate Uber.
And I guarantee now. But and all their taxi cabs, because the DFW, if you had propane, natural gas cabs, you got to the front of the line. You had a whole separate line at the airports, and they owned this cab company, so it was a cash cow for them for a long time.
And then they also had knowledge in that natural gas powered space, so that made sense.
Yeah. So we crawled in the sheets with them. Started ordering trucks, or started getting all of this stuff together.
And what time frame is this year wise?
So this is going to be 11. I think we signed our papers with them in like September, October of 2011, and we hit a couple of roadblocks in the middle of the way. They had we was looking for equity and some debt, and the PE firm, their normal go-to bank that they assumed would carry that debt, crawfished on them because we was a startup, and it was in their kind of like their bylaws. They don't do startups. So
even though you had a contract in place for, sufficient to service the overall spend, they just said, our bylaws say we can't do it.
So I had already committed to doing business with Dragon, because they hands down build the best frac tanks, trailers, and all that. Used them for years. Great service. Just good people. Family owned company. So I had in between all this, I had met Casey Crenshaw, one of the sons of Mr. Will, and I'd called him and said, "Man, I got a problem with my deal." And he said, "What is it?" And I said, "I got to find financing for the trailers and the frac tanks." And the bank that the private equity firm assumed crawfish because it's a startup company.
And that was the debt you were trying to roll into it, was the initial build of the equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Casey, man, he didn't blink. He said, "I'll do it."
That's awesome.
And I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." He said, he said, "I want to get everybody involved, the private equity firm and everybody on the phone. And you need to tell them we're doing it under my terms. I don't have to do this. And I'm not doing this to sell equipment, because we're sold out. I mean, we're going to have to jump some hoops and hurdlers to get you your equipment in your time frame." I said, "All right." So anyway, I go to Austin, to Buda, to the Peterbilt dealer, Rush Peterbilt down there where we was buying our trucks. And we have Rush Peterbilt CFO and some other executives with Rush in the office, in the conference room, the PE firm, and we all get on the phone. Casey's on the phone, and we're going through it, and they're kind of talking to Casey about his terms and all that, and he tells them, he said, "Here's our terms," and he said, "I'm going to tell you, it's take it or leave it. This is non-negotiable.
Yeah, we don't have to do this."
And another thing that's non-negotiable, this deal is no good if Roger's not involved in it. If I'm not comfortable with what Roger's take is on this deal, his equity position, we won't do it. Square business.
Another good man.
Won't do it. So, man, we got it done. We got it done. It was hard. I had a heart attack in the middle of all this, literally.
Outstanding.
Ended up in the hospital. They roto-rooted my vein. Literally, it was crazy. I was out shooting sporting clays on a Sunday, just trying to get some relief, shooting some shit, and had a heart attack. Ended up in the hospital. They done a.
You had a heart attack while you were trying to relax.
Yeah,
your body rejected the relaxing.
Rejected it.
It was like, we're not doing this.
I should have just been home drinking.
Right. Yeah. Well.
And literally, I get out of the hospital, and my wife at the time picks me up, and I have her drive me straight to Buda, to the Peterbilt shop, because I need to go there and sign some papers to get this first tranche of trucks ordered. And
glad that heart attack's behind me. I need you to get me to Austin, please.
So, but man, we get it, and we start taking delivery of tanks and trailers December We start hauling water January. I buy my friend Chad. I get his company or the assets of his company bought out. Sonny was hard headed. He didn't want to play, so we ended up shoving him out. And man, it was off to the races. It was
So those independents, the two of them that were conditional, you bought one,
yes,
rolled those assets up into your company. What was the name of your company?
Green Energy Oilfield Services.
That's an outstanding name, honestly. You're using that green thing before it was.
Exactly.
You were cool before it was cool. So you roll his assets up under Green Energy, and then Sonny, the other independent, he's a little more hard-headed.
Yep.
But eventually, you just push him out of the business, or
we push him out of working for XTO. He finds some other. He ends up just kind of. He didn't bang. He just went out. He just shut it down.
he just never did
Just
come over.
Never did come over.
All right, well,
So we we get up and running, and man, that was 11, 12, 13. We had that nosedive in gas. XTO starts dropping rigs, and my contract was for 100% of their work. It wasn't guaranteeing 200,000 barrels a day.
yeah. If their work is 100, great. If their work is 1, that's still 100%. Yeah.
So I'm pulling my hair out because that first year was awesome. We was knocking it back. I mean, we was cash flow positive, month 4. So
That's unheard of, man. That's awesome.
we was rolling, and then I call another friend of mine that was with Hunt. They had sold to XTO during all of this, and he ended up in South Texas for SM Energy. And Tracy Fair, great guy. I call him, and we just chumming it up. He still lives back home, and me and him used to shoot sporting clays together all the time, all the Oldman shoots and stuff. And
Was he out there when you had a heart attack?
yeah, he was.
That's hilarious. I was joking, but
No, he was. It was him and a couple other buddies of mine. And it wasn't like one of them heart attacks where you just kind of fall out. I was like, I couldn't breathe. And
Yeah.
I've always been a big guy. But, man, good pair of tennis shoes, man, I could walk. I used to quail hunt. I could walk all day long. I mean, I couldn't walk up them stairs. Like,
you quail hunting tennis shoes?
Yeah.
Well,
Old rattlesnakes, man. They don't bite much.
They don't bite much, but it's pretty bad
We
deal.
but I couldn't walk up them stairs. And I called my wife. I said, hey, oh, there's something wrong with me. She said, what? And I told her. I said, you call a doctor, something. Well, she calls around, and this was on a Monday. And she said, well, nobody can get you into like Wednesday. I said, baby, I'm telling you, I'm going to be dead by Wednesday.
This needs to get sorted out now.
Yeah. So she calls the whatever heart place in Waco, Dr. Schultz. I remember his name. And I go over there and say, he gets me in there. And, man, they don't put me on an EKG or nothing. He's listening to my heart. He said, what does it feel like? I said, it feels like somebody's sitting on my chest. And when I breathe, it's like I'm breathing cold air. I know that sounds stupid, but he said, okay. Hospital we go. They give me all this medicine and stuff. He said, look, we're going to do this first thing in the morning. And that next morning, but I'm going to tell you, when I come to, they don't put you to completely asleep doing that. Did you know that?
No. Do that like the clean out?
The catheter.
No.
No, you're sedated.
Oh, you went through the leg. They went through the leg.
They went through my groin. And you're like waking up, and all these people are looking at you, and they're doing this, and you can hear them talking, and then you doze off. You wake up again. I remember.
You're just kind of in and out.
Yeah. And but anyways, when I got back to my room and I woke up, 100% different. I mean, I was like ready to get up and go. Let's go. I'm ready.
Except you got a plug in your femoral artery.
Exactly.
So you got to kind of take it easy.
That was the most uncomfortable deal, is this sandbag they put on you until it closes.
Yeah.
So, but man, I called Tracy, and I said, man, y'all busy down there? He said, yeah, man, we're busy as we can be. I said, how many vacuum trucks you need? He's like, all you got. I said, I'm being serious. He said, I am too. Shit, 48 hours. We had a mobile fueler for that LNG. I hooked the truck up to it, a diesel truck, because we could only get so many miles without having to refuel. So we went from here, I'm gonna say just outside of San Antonio, had to pull over to truck stop, had like there's 20 trucks, had them all one at a time, fuel up, and get on down to Asherton. You know where Asherton is?
No.
You know where Crizzle Springs is?
Yes.
south of Crizo, between Crizo and Laredo.
That's a bit of a hike, man.
That's a hike. So we get them down there, and my buddy of mine that owned Vaquero that I sold my part out, he had a yard down there. They were doing roustabout work down there in rentals. And I'd already called him. I said, man, I need to park some trucks. Come on. So we go down there, and I carry drivers with me, and we go to work. And it's crazy. We get down there, we start going to work. We're working on the ranch, and we're starting to hire some local drivers. Then I had a buddy of mine. I stayed in contact with EOG. I'd called him. I said, man, y'all got any room for me? He said, yeah. I said, where? He said, anywhere between, Three Rivers and Gonzales. That's where we're at. So I go up there. I find a spot in Three Rivers. We open up a yard in Three Rivers. I get down there to Gonzales, open a yard in Gonzales. So now I got Fairfield, Ashton, Three Rivers, and Gonzales.
So in the middle of a downturn, you're shifting gears and opening new spots.
You got to, man. You got to snatch and grab it because, one of the deals I failed to leave out on the provisions with Casey on the Dragon financing, I had to sign a personal guarantee for all that shit. So my nuts was on the line for 20-odd million.
Right.
So, and I don't, I don't say this boasting and bragging, but I don't believe in failure. I don't believe in failure. I remember when we was at that private equity firm before, when we was at the table getting ready to close and everybody's kind of feeling everybody out. The guy that owns the private equity firm, he said, hey, I got one question. He said, what? He said, what keeps you up at night? I'm like, what keeps me up at night? I make a dumb comment like nightmares,
Yeah.
And he said, no, I said, I know what you mean. I said, what keeps me up at night, man? I said, at my heyday at Bayou, I had about 200 truck drivers working for me at one time. He said, man, wow, I said, I knew that if I didn't do my job 110%, them 200 truck drivers weren't going to get paychecks. And you take 200 truck drivers, and all of them are married. So we went from 200 to 400 mouths, and then that couple probably has a couple of kids. So you go to about 800 mouths to feed. That's what keeps me up at night. So,
failing those people.
Yeah, it wasn't me failing personally. I mean, I can dust my butt off and get up, and I can go back to work on the rig if I needed to. I ain't forgot how to pull slips or, push them back and make them
The
bite.
good news is they're not throwing chains anymore.
Exactly.
And you're still left-handed. So.
Still left-handed. I got all my fingers.
That is more remarkable. That people that have been in the industry a long time know how remarkable that is, especially given the industry and the time frame that you came from.
Oh, it was rough.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And you have all of your fingers, all of your fingers.
All of my fingers. That finger, it's outside of that. But
that's okay.
We that was it, man. I knew I had to figure something out. It was downturn. The Eagleford was getting it. It was just really picking up, and the timing was right because you hadn't got all the whores in there whoring the market out yet, for lack of better words. And so we got in there, man, and we went to work. We went to work for EOG.
When you say whoring the market out, you're talking about the companies that come in and like take the race to the bottom, right?
Exactly.
They just start cutting prices. There's no reason to do it necessarily. They just do it because they're scared.
I was one of the very few that if you had 4 or 5 vacuum trucks and Justin's vacuum truck service or whatever, I would come hire you to work for me so I could control your rates to keep you from bottoming them out.
You'd subcontract them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can always go down. You can't ever go back up.
That's right.
So we was getting it, man, and it was great. And probably, I don't know, about 2-3 years into it, me and the private equity firm started not getting along real good. So I made the decision to leave. We left on good terms.
What was going on though that caused that? If you want to get into it,
no, we just had differences of opinions of how to run the company. I had been in the transportation business and oil field all my life. They're bankers. Bankers don't really understand. I mean, they look at numbers. We was making money. Was we hitting the constant 30-odd% they wanted? No, but I wasn't going back to the well to get money to make payroll. The biggest thing is we had some growth opportunities that, in my employment package with them, I had to get board approval. I think it was for anything over 500,000, loan or lease. I had to get board approval to sign it. And South Texas, oil-based mud. So they'd start out with water-based, then swap to oil-based. Well, when the rig rigged up, they had 4 mud tanks, mud pumps, and all that with the oil-based there ready to go. And down there working for SM, I had the opportunity to pick that up on like 6 or 7 rigs. I said, hey, you get it, you take care of it. And it wasn't just the rim. I got all the vacuum truck work with it too. So I called down there at Dragon and priced them. Buddy of mine, Johnny Tennyson, and he priced them. I forgot what it was, but it was a little more than my I could do with.
You had to go to the
program.
board. You had to go to the board.
So I said, well, let's put these on one lease and these on another lease, and let's keep it about 450,000 and do business.
Yeah, let's keep it in the approval ranges.
So, man, this rock's on for like a couple of quarters, and every month we would have conference room. It was almost like a board meeting. Go over our previous month and all that, and everything was itemized. It was on the financials.
You weren't hiding anything.
Wasn't hiding nothing, and they never once asked what mud plant meant. They just seen the revenue, and it was all positive. I mean, them things was renting for like $1,500 a day, and then I got all the trucking, and it was in there one day and was doing that, and they had this one little nerdy kid, and he's like, explain to me what a mud plant is, and I told him, and then the guy over here's like, well, when did we get in that business? 6 months ago, and it just kind of snowballed from there. They was mad, and I'm like, why are you mad?
Nerd asking that question.
Yeah. So
you tell them you're focused on the wrong part of the story, nerd.
Yeah.
Look at the money. Look at the revenue here.
I let my head get a little big probably at the time, and they would, I'd tell them, say, hey, y'all want to fire me? Fire me. I don't care. I was tired, working 20-hour days and all that. So they had decided that they thought they needed to bring another private equity firm in to help. This was a pretty small outfit that we was dealing with. And I told them, I said, that's fine. I said, but I don't want no part of it. I'm done with private equity. And the guy that owns it, he said, what's that supposed to mean? I said, there was a buddy of mine a while back referred to all private equity as vulture capitalist. And I know
Instead
why
of
now.
venture capitalist?
Yeah. So, man, we made a deal. We parted ways. I got paid. I was going to sit at home for a little bit. I've always traded a little equipment, yellow iron. And, man, I was headed to Ritchie Brothers auction in Fort Worth, Texas, and my phone rings, and it's Casey with Dragon. And he said, hey, I talked to JT. He said, blah, 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 blah. And I said, yeah. He said, what are you going to do now? I said, I don't know. I said, I ain't get that far ahead. And actually I did. I went and filed an LLC for Green Energy Fuels Corp. I was going to buy some trucks and trailers and haul LNG for clean energy was my plan. And anyways, I told him, I said, I was thinking about that. I said, but we literally just signed these papers yesterday, so I ain't thought about nothing. That next week I go to Beaumont. They're building frac equipment left and right, and all this dual fuel stuff was catching some traction. And at the time when I left Green, I had the largest fleet of LNG trucks in the country.
How many did you have?
We had 120.
That's a good amount.
And the only fleet ever introduced in the oil field. So it's a pretty big stuff, dude. They wrote a story about us. It was on the front street of the Wall Street Journal. I got a cool letter from T. Boone Pickens I still have.
That's awesome.
I don't know if you ever met T. Boone.
I've not.
Coolest guy you ever met in your life. I mean, just cool dude. But man, all that was cool.
Well, you were Green for Green was cool, man. You're a trendsetter.
Trendsetter. So I go to Beaumont, and Casey had been thinking about this for a little while because he really kind of had some details. It wasn't just a knee jerk. But dual fuel was picking up. There's a couple of frac companies doing it. At that time, Dragon was probably the largest frac pump manufacturer in the country. I mean, they were just wham, 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 wham. And they started building some dual fuel for, I think it was Baker before they done all that. Baker, BJ, then they done away with this. And Casey seen a bottleneck on the fuel supply because the only LNG plant in Texas was the the Pickens plant in Willis. And he said, we need to get out in front of this. I said, what do you want to do? I want to build an LNG plant in South Texas. Okay.
Well, that's cheap.
I said, what is this? What does it got to do with me? He said, I want you to help me. He said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to build an LNG plant. We're going to service these drilling rigs. We're going to service these frac spreads with LNG. We're going to build us a big old company. And I said, well, okay. Well, I have this LLC that I started. He said, what you going to do with it? I said, well, I was going to da-da-da. He said, okay. So I sell it to him for $1. Literally. And we start Green Energy Fuels Corp. We do that. Well, Green Energy Oilfield Services threatened to sue me
because of green energy.
So we had to change the name. So we went to American LNG, and I ordered the first 10 cryogenic transports that Tim Lowry ever built.
Yeah, so Tim was on the show, and obviously
I
Josh
watched it.
Owns Upright Digital, which is part of the network, and
Yeah.
so yeah, Tim and that group at ACT, man, they're top notch.
Top notch.
They're the best.
Him and Jack, Bill, they were great guys. So
I was going to ask when you said cryo transports if you used ACT.
yeah, we bought the first 10 they ever built, and I remember going over and talking to him, and we like, what are you gonna do with this? Well, here's the plan, but we hadn't got an LNG plant yet, so it was a long lead time. So we go and buy 10 LNG transports trucks, and Justin, these was the cream of the crop.
I don't doubt it, man. Tim and those guys did good stuff.
The trucks that we bought from Peterbilt, long nose Pete's, 64-inch flat top sleepers. I mean, pimp wagons. And we buy some step deck trailers. I get a phone call from a buddy of mine at Clean. He said, hey, you want to haul pipe for Tenaris? I said, I don't know why. He said, man, they got a program that if anybody that'll buy natural gas trucks, they'll get first right of refusal on bids and quotes and all that. So I ease over off the loop. I walk in their office, introduce myself, and like, yeah, how many trucks you want to buy? Well, we bought 10. So I bought 10 step decks. In the interim, we start hauling pipe for Tenaris to West Texas. McClatchy Brothers in West Texas.
Yeah.
So we can't make it all the way out there because there ain't no fueling stations. So I go to Brady, Texas. A guy that I used to lease a deer lease from out there, he was in the frac sand hauling business. And I said, Ed, I need a place to put a fuel tank.
So Brady's about halfway.
Yeah.
You can get to Brady and have some left over.
Yep. And the plan was go to Brady, fuel up, get to Midland, and then at that point, empty, they could get from Midland all the way back to Conroe.
Oh, wow.
It's
so unladen, they could get back to Conroe.
Most of them would come through there and fill up anyways. So we started doing that.
But you get to Conroe, you can get to Willis.
Exactly.
You can get to the LNG.
And, there was a Pilot Flying J.
Oh, okay.
Part of the Green Highway deal that Clean failed in. But anyway, so, man, we started that. And, man, we was doing pretty good, man. We was making money. And Casey's like, when we going to start, hustling these rigs and hauling LNG? I'm like, why, man? We're making money hauling
killing his pipe stuff.
He said, that's not the business we're in. So I said, okay. So we actually sell the trailers to those flatbed trailers to ACT to build us some vaporization units
on top of those trailers.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So we get them trailers, and the first rig, we start doing this dual fuel deal. I knew I know the CEO was Scan Drill, Paul Musfall, great guy, and I'd call Paul. I'd worked for him years ago, and I said, how many rigs I got with dual fuel? He said, 3 or 4. I said, how many of them, is there any of them in Freestone County? He said, yeah, think it was a Scan Gold. He said, it's up there. I said, who's it drilling for? He said, XTO. I said,
I got an in there.
I haul ass to Tyler. Dane Henley, drilling superintendent. Man, I got a deal for you. We go up there, we rig up, and we run gas. We rig that gas up for Riggles. First drilling rig in Texas run on natural gas, dual fuel.
That's
and,
awesome.
We do that, and then we kind of start scratching around in South Texas where we're going to put our plant and all of that. And then I get a call from a guy, I can't even remember his name, with BP, not BHP. And they had, I don't know, man, they had 30 or 40 rigs down there in the Haynes or Eagleford.
The BHP at one time was big down there.
Big.
It's still pretty big.
Yeah. And they had, it was a good number, 17 or 18 H&P rigs, all natural gas, all dual fuel. Guy calls me, hey, man, y'all doing dual fuel? I said, yep. Y'all spoke up? Yep. Y'all got the equipment? Yep. Come talk to me. Before they built that big old office over off the loop, we go over there and we sit down and talk to them. And man, we make a deal. And at that point, we're leasing equipment from other cryogenic companies because we didn't have none yet. We'd bought a few from Chart. I was buying everything Tim and them could put out the planet because this was their early days.
Yeah.
We was buying everything they could put out.
As fast as you can build it.
Fast as you can build it. And then Anadarko would come into play. And then, man, before you know it, man, I had 40-odd rigs running in South Texas running on gas.
Still no plant.
Still no plant.
How are you servicing that?
Willis,
Straight
Texas.
out of Willis, yeah.
Straight out of Willis. We had them trucks just back and forth. Slip seating them, you know.
Yeah.
But we was making it work, man.
Wearing trenches in the road.
Yeah.
Back and forth, yeah.
We hired, I don't know, man, we had 3 or 4 techs I hired. And we were literally living in a hotel in Kennedy. And that was before they built the nice hotels. You ever been to Kennedy?
You living in a motel. You were in a hotel.
It was a motel right beside that barbecue joint, right there at that kind of little cross before you get into that old church down there. Anyways, we started doing that. And then, man, gas went to
nothing. Yeah.
oil went to nothing. Gas being nothing was good because the delta between LNG and diesel was huge.
Right. If they were dual fuel, they'd rather run on LNG.
Yeah. So sure. I could come to you and say, hey, I guarantee you I can be 50 cents under diesel. I wouldn't have to give you a per gallon price, but 50 cents under diesel. So if diesel was at $5 and it got to that, I was at $4.50.
I remember when diesel flipped and was more expensive than gas. I remember someone equating that to like going to the butcher and bologna is more than the ribeye.
So that happened.
It's hilarious.
That happened to us. We was I want to think this is probably 13 or 14. It flopped. And of course, you know, oil went to crud. Everybody went to dropping rigs. Nobody wanted to do dual fuel. We hadn't got into the.
They didn't want dual fuel. They wanted straight
diesel.
Diesel.
It was cheaper.
Yeah.
You know, and at that time, anyway, the company, we ended up Stabilis Energy. American LNG. We changed the name to be something more American LNG.
Non-location specific.
We were looking at doing work in other countries and stuff, you know, long term. So anyway, so Stabilis Energy ended up what it was. So I co-founded that with Casey, and it was fun. We done some cool stuff. We got that LNG plant in South Texas built, 120,000 gallons a day, killing it. We done some acquisitions. We Encana had a division called Ingy, and it was Encana Natural Gas Inc., but it was a division of LNG green stuff, and had a ton of equipment with it. We acquired them. Then we acquired a company in Mexico, Diverse Energy, and we was exporting. We were the largest gas exporter into Mexico. Still are today.
It's remarkable to think about, your story. You drop out of high school, and here you are making, multi-million-dollar deals internationally. What do you think gave you, again, what gave you the idea that number one, you could do this, and then number two, how how did you convince yourself you could do this?
I'm going to tell you the story, man, and this is it. And no pun intended. Billy Johnson that owned Azurite. He and I was working together, and when he sold to Basic, we both stayed for a little while. Billy, man, he's worked for himself for years, so working for somebody, taking orders. So he left, and I remember calling him and kind of talking shit to him. Man, how do you leave me to drive? Hang out to drive with these dudes? Because I mean, the guy that was running Basic at the time, I didn't like him then. I don't like him now. He's I don't like him, you know. And I said, how do you leave me here with Roe and to work with him? And I said, I ain't doing this. He said, no, you need to stay. And he said, look, man. He said, Roger, you can go and do whatever you want to do. I said, yeah. He said, you take your street smarts and what you've learned through the years from Bayou and here, the business end. He said, you can do whatever you want. You can be the most dangerous person in the world. And Casey reiterated me that, you know, about that same time frame. So, man, just the determination of just snatching and grabbing and getting it, you know, the deals by you, you know, I didn't get a big old fat check like I thought I should have. Billy took care of me, but the thought of, man, I'm doing this and I'm putting all this money in everybody else's pocket. The fat man needs some too. So that was it, man. That was, I mean, just wanting to do something, and you know, part of it was, you know, wanting to some kind of legacy. You know, I ain't got like 10,000 acres to leave nobody, this and that, but my kids will remember. You know, my dad started the whole natural gas deal. My dad had the first LNG, which that and 50 cents to get you a cup of coffee, but it's still cool.
Yeah, it's still cool, and you don't have 10,000 acres yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
we I run natural gas on the first frac fleet in Texas. I run gas on the first electric frac fleet ever built.
Somebody had to be first. Might as well be you.
Might as well be me.
So you've heard the term pretender syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
People that, you know, and I've had this in my career, you know, like at times, like it's only a matter of time before they figure me out, right? Did you ever go through anything like that? Like, man, here I am, and you look back on your time, and you're like, there's guys that you're dealing with that are no doubt, you know, they not only graduated high school, they've gone well beyond that education-wise. Did you ever feel like, man, I don't belong in this room? And if you did, how'd you overcome that?
Man, never did.
That's awesome.
I was pretty arrogant. When I was working at Bayou, you just had to understand the atmosphere that the AGs and Mr. Devonish let us do. It was almost like a gang. I mean, there was 200 of us. I had the company logo and name tattooed on my arm for years. We had these jackets made, and Justin, I found it was an alligator standing up.
Of course it was. I mean, if you had
and
purple trucks,
it had a turtleneck sweater on. So I carried it to this guy. I said, I need you to make that alligator cool. That alligator's not cool. Serious story. I don't know. It was several days. He comes back, and this alligator, no sweater, 6-pack, bowed up biceps,
just jacked
up. That's it. I showed it to Brett. He's like, man, that's cool. And I told him, I said, I'll make you a deal. He said, what? I'll get it tattooed on my arm if you get it tattooed on your arm. He said, bet. I go for like a 4-day vacation in Galveston, find this tattoo shop. Me and my wife's down there, and I showed him, can you do this? He said,
you can accidentally get tattooed in Galveston.
Yeah, accidentally.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, that's where. Yeah. But so he draws it, man, and it's perfect. And then he puts it on my arm, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, this is freaking cool. I said, let's go. $500 later, you know, we're done. I couldn't get back to work fast enough. I walk in the office. Brett's in there. I'm like, hey, buddy, you ready to go tattoo shop? He said, you get it? I said, yeah. No, you didn't. Yeah, I didn't. I took my shirt off. I look, here. And he just like went ballistic. Oh, my God.
I thought we were just kidding, man.
Then his dad and his you had to know the story. So Nyron was his father-in-law. And then Dick was his dad. And the three of them owned the company. And Nyron and Dick and all of them had heard about it. And so Christmas rolls around one year, and he lets me go get nice black hooded, the cool Carhartt jackets for all the drivers.
Right.
I take them to the embroidery shop. Guess what ends up on the back of them?
The big jacked ass alligator.
And on the back of it, it said, first in service, second to none.
That's pretty strong. I like that.
And I remember Nairn saying, "Mel, you're putting a set of crosshairs on your back." I'm like, "Who cares?
Bring it, yeah."
So we created, and that kind of, it made me arrogant.
I want to go back. That he never got the tattoo, did he?
Never got the tattoo. Never got the tattoo.
You still have it?
No, I had it covered up, man, because it had my ex-wife's name tattooed right above it. So when I went to the tattoo shop and I said, I need to get this covered up, he said, man, I got to cover both of these up.
I've never been more disappointed at the end of a story than I am right now, because I wanted to see that, man.
It's not there no more. I got this big gaudy.
Well, I mean, that's still pretty strong, cool. Dude. Yeah, I mean,
but that's why it's so dark.
For sure, get some lotion though, huh?
Yeah, really ashy. Yeah. But all the purple and the gold and all that was on there, so it had to be dark, and it was kind of heartbreaking. But we'd done moved on 2 or 3 different opportunities after that. But the atmosphere at Bayou, I mean, man, we'd have our Christmas parties at the country club. Brett and I would go rent the country club and bring all these truck drivers.
Yeah, well,
and we'd party. I mean, we'd party just like we was at a local bar.
Yeah,
and
why not?
We outgrew the country club, and I told Brett one year, I said, "What are we going to do for Christmas party this year?" He said, "I got it. Don't worry about it." I said, "Sure." He said, "I got it. Don't worry about it." When we just built our new shop, big fine shop, and I said, "What are we doing?" He said, "We're gonna have it here at the shop." I said, "We can't have it here. No, I got this." Caters Papados from here all the way up there.
Papados never disappoints.
Just
so good.
You could bring your family. I mean, I don't tell them what the little ticket was. Had Mr. and Mrs. Santa Claus for the kids, pictures, company paid for it. I mean, just stand up guys, man. It was great. We had a employee have an accident and pass away, and he was part of the family, and they told me, he said, "Hey, you go talk to the family. We got the ticket, whatever they need. We paid for everything. Funeral."
Are you sure you weren't in the mafia?
Positive.
This sounds a lot like mafia type stuff.
I mean, I wasn't. I think I know all of them guys pretty well. They wasn't. They're just good people, man.
So going back to the question I asked originally about the pretender syndrome, it's great that you had that in your career, because what it allowed you to do was it gave you so much free space that you just became comfortable.
Yeah.
And I think that's, for me, being able to achieve a level of comfort is where I overcame that kind of, man, they're going to find me out.
Mm-hmm.
And that took a long time. So I think that's great. I do think that's the key to overcoming that for people, is just that comfort level. And it's awesome that you were allowed that.
Yeah, it was cool. It was, I had a lot of support, and, a lot of my, it never was, I always had a team of great people. One of the things that Nairn told me years ago, so you want to be successful, you want to be great, surround yourself with great, successful people. And I've been very fortunate to do that through my career, and just had some good guys working for me. And I mean, I can go through 20 people in my phone. Hey man, I'm fixing to buy some vacuum trucks. Where we need to go?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been a great, it was a good career, man. And the whole stability still, man, it was great. We done some really cool, innovative first that LNG plant in Willis was built like in the 70s. It wasn't built for a merchant plant, so we actually had the first merchant plant here. We was one of the first ones
built out to be a merchant plant.
Yeah, built out. Our whole theory was we was building it for the oil field. We was going to supply frac spreads, drilling rigs, and we were supplying rigs prior to our plant, pretty much proving the concept, because the dual fuel was new. I mean, it was almost, some of it was too new, because some of the technology didn't work and was efficient as it needed to be, but everything's got to start somewhere, Right. But
got to be a first. Might as well be you.
Got to be a first. But and it was cool. We done that, and then man, we just had a bad run in the oil field, and by this time, I mean, Stabilis has grown up. You know, I used to tell everybody, yeah, I was the first sitting CEO of Stabilis. And they're like, what happened? Well, the company outgrew me. It was it did it. So I was always
So
in the
that's
type.
an interesting point, though. I want to like when you think back on that. I'm sure in that moment you weren't like, man, this company outgrew me. I need to let someone else take it from here. That's a painful reality, right?
It is, but you know, Casey was real good at explaining stuff and working with me, and you know, when we first started it, I was the first sitting CEO of the company. I mean, I handled everything. We set everything up, but then you know, when we started getting ready to build the plant in South Texas. That's like $100 million project, and we wanted to raise money, or we wanted to find us a strategic partner. Not when I mean a strategic partner, a partner, not a PE firm or none of that. So
Right.
when we started that, you know, Casey brought a guy in to help, and he done a great job, and I got to meet some really cool people. I don't want to drop no names on them guys because they might have you knocked off. But we went to Chicago.
Now, see, again, this feels a lot like the mafia, man.
No, we met some really cool people.
You're not making a strong argument that you're not in the mob.
We ended up partnering with one of the largest refining companies in the country and pipeline companies. So read between lines. And you know we partnered on the plant. We started getting it built. And my first and Tim, we both popped our cherry at the same time in this LNG business. The first LNG show we all went to was LNG 17 in Chicago. And have you ever partied with Tim and them guys?
It can get out of hand.
So we're at LNG 17 in Chicago. And I've been to Chicago once, but I've never been to Chicago.
I've only been to O'Hare. I've never actually spent time in Chicago.
I can't remember the name of the hotel, but it was right there. Was it Lake Michigan?
Yeah.
It was right on Lake Michigan. I mean, I could look out my room and see Lake Michigan.
You feel like you're looking at an ocean.
Exactly. I don't know why they call it a lake.
Because it's fresh water.
So we're at LNG 17, and we have, I think it was Jack and them's or Tim and them's first LNG transport
As ACT.
As ACT with our colors on it there at that show. And
so you're not saying you made Tim, but you made Tim. Yeah. If he were in this room,
we did it together.
If he was in this room, I'd say that to his face.
And Tim would say, "Oh yeah."
He would too. Yeah, he'd laugh his ass off too. But you know what? Great guys, hard workers, absolute titans of their segment of the industry.
Absolutely.
Him and Josh both. Those guys are killers, man. They're absolute killers.
Absolutely. We, due to time constraints, I ended up having to get some equipment from a competitor of theirs. And when you compare them together, I mean, Tim and them done a good job. Tim, did you ever know Jack Smith? He was a partner with them at ACT. And, man, them guys made some good equipment.
They did. Their success speaks for itself.
So, anyway, man, the Stabilis deal, we're rock and rolling, oil field nose dives. I was having fun. So I talked to Casey, and Stabilis decides they're going to start leaning more towards industrial operations and really the marine, stuff. So, I leave Stabilis and took very, very good care of me. Casey is looking in the natural gas remote power generation stuff. And he said, look, go home, take off a month, go spend some time with your daughter, and then let's go to work on this. So I did, man. I went home, and I have a 5-year-old at the great age of 51.
That's fine.
And I
have friends that hit the reset button too, and it's pretty interesting.
So I have them from 35 to 5. So I tell everybody I started early and stayed late.
Yeah, that's right. Stayed till the sun came up.
Exactly. So, man, I go home and I have a little place in the country, a little farm back home, and just hang out with her. Go back with Casey, and we start this Dragon Power. It's a part of the modern group of companies, and we're building a multitude of power generation, any and everything, and it's all big power turbines.
That's where you are now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And love it, man.
Still natural gas.
Still natural gas. I love that gas business, man. I love that gas business.
It's not a bad one to be in. I mean, gas prices are low right now.
They are, but in what we do, I mean, I'm gonna sell you a generator to power this beautiful house off natural gas. It don't get no cheaper than that. The ROI works, really works.
Right. And when gas is low, I'd imagine your business makes more sense.
It makes
for
more
sure.
sense. And doing this, there is no little deals, so they're all 50 plus. You don't buy just one or two, 2.5, 3 meg generators. With the E fleet, you familiar with all of that?
Mm-hmm.
With all the E
with
fleets?
Liberty and all those guys. Yeah.
So with all of that, getting more traction and more traction, we're following them with this remote power, and so I mean the business. There's a lot of room to grow that business. So and it's in the natural gas, and it's big money. So I love it.
So you're currently at Dragon.
Yep.
And tell me how that's going.
Man, it's great. Man, I love the Crenshaws. Casey's been a great advocate of me from, way back at the, early days of my career.
I'm going to beg you to have him come on my show now.
And he won't. He's very conservative.
Man. Well, I'm super conservative.
I got permission from him to, come on the show. Just out of respect.
Sure.
No, he's our age. He's a great guy.
Well, you're older than me, and that's okay.
Well, and I'm older than Casey. But no,
he's probably. I'm old.
Yeah.
It's okay.
But no, man, they're just the whole company is just neat. The way they started. I don't know if you know the background, and
I don't.
I'm not here trying to record a Dragon commercial, but
but I think it's interesting to find out.
That company started 50-something years ago, making ag equipment, plows, mowers, disc, literally. That's what the company started out doing.
And now look what they're doing.
And now today they're building e-pumps, they're building workover. When I could tell the story in front of a customer that don't know Dragon or which or the modern group, I always say we're the largest oilfield equipment manufacturer in the country, and you'll have some people ask, well, it's not. You look at everything we do. We build everything from the drilling rig to drill your well, the workover rig to work on it, the frac equipment to frac it, the production equipment, the LAC units, the everything, A to Z. We build it.
They still doing ag equipment
every day.
That's awesome.
Doing private labeling for like New Holland and I think Massey Ferguson or something. But
it's amazing when you see companies like that, and like you see like Mitsubishi or Honda or one of these companies, and they're like making everything from straight razors to fucking cars,
Exactly.
and you're like, what? How did this happen?
These cats, I'd heard stories about barbecue pits, and I mean, I went by you. I mean, I used to have the guys in the shop building barbecue pit. We kind of hide it away from the boss man, and I kind of thought that's what they were talking about. No, they mass produce these bitches. I was on Facebook Marketplace looking at some stuff, and I seen this pit. And it said, and it had the Dragon emblem, Dragon and all that. And I pulled it up, snapshot it, sent it to my buddy Johnny Timpson, call him JT. And he said, yeah, they used to build these like in the, late 90s, early 2000s or something. I said, you're shitting me.
Just dabbled in that for a minute.
Yeah. So I tried to buy it. I'm like, man, this would be cool. I'm going to try to buy it. And I missed out on it. I was like, it was in Knoxville, Tennessee or something. I was gonna drive to Knoxville.
It's a trailer mounted pit.
No,
man.
it was more like your only back porch.
What?
Yes, it wasn't no big elaborate.
See, when you said barbecue pit, I was thinking like big trailer mounted, like cook off pit.
But that's where they excel past everybody is they get in there, stuff like that that's cookie cutter, and build hundreds of them. In our heyday, at the pressure pumping division, we was putting out a frac pump a day.
Damn, that's a lot.
And Tom, the VP over that division, was telling me from start to date, they've built over 4,000 frac pumps. And when we build them, people look at Dragon as just a packager, and we do a lot of packaging. But our frac pumps, it's phenomenal. You go over, we got a machine shop. They start out with a raw piece of metal as big
pretty
as
much scratch built,
machine it, board, and everything. And they built some state of the art stuff. I mean, they're over building and designing. I think it's like a 6,000 horsepower frac pump, which be the biggest of its kind. So it's just great.
That's remarkable.
Yeah, and the work and the rig deal. I've always liked that end of the business. Growing up working on drilling rigs, but we own the Cooper brand. Cooper workover rigs was back in the old days. It was Cooper and Franks, and that was it. Then you had Taylor. Then you had Landry, and it's all. But Cooper was one of the original old school.
One of the OG
companies.
twos.
Yeah, and we build those in Victoria. And they just kill it. And we operate, and we have 32 facilities in the U.S. and operate. I think it's 7 countries.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, so work in privately held, family owned, no banker. No private equity, no Wall Street bullshit.
And what's awesome about that is it provides enough latitude to be able to do like what Casey did when you were closing your deal.
Exactly.
Be like, well, I'll finance that. I'll finance it, but I'll finance it on my terms.
I have a deal I'm working on, and even though Casey is a dear friend of mine, I follow the chain of command. I have a boss. My boss has a boss. I don't just go to Casey, pick up the phone, hey man. But that's a cool thing though. I call my boss and say, hey, I got this and this and this. Can we do this? I mean, and either he's like yes or no, or he picks up the phone. You don't have to go through a board. Pick up the phone. Casey, can we do this? Yep, no,
Yeah.
And go. And working for a company that big that you're able to do that. That's why, I have people ask me all the time, say, hey man, are you ready for a round 3 or 4? Good, man.
Yeah.
I've made all the money, I need to make. I don't have tons of money in the bank. 2 divorces, and then you add my burn rate in there. I went through something.
Yeah.
But
I myself carry a pretty high burn rate, and that's just on me. I don't know how to change that. And I was talking to my wife last night. Actually, this is actually pretty funny. Last night she brought up the point that I think she said something like average income in the Houston area is something like $75,000 a year. No. What it was to live comfortably. They said you had to make $75,000 a year as a single person. And I said to her, if I was thinking like probably 75, and then almost in the same breath, I was like, I did the math on what the delta was between what I'm actually making versus 75, and went, man, I have to cut out a lot of fun shit.
No, exactly.
So I don't know. And I told her, I said, it's hard to go back, man. You got to get kind of used to living a certain way. So,
exactly.
But you know what, man? And that's what I think people don't understand about this industry. And you talked about it a bit. If you're in it long enough, you're going to experience a downturn. You're going to experience getting laid off. All of us have had that at some level. And I think what separates true people in the oil and gas industry versus those that aren't, that I would call them pretenders, you just grab another gear and you start again. You figure it out. You move on. You leverage a relationship or two, and
to me, man,
just keep it moving.
To me, it's like playing ping pong. If you quit hitting the buttons, you're just gonna fall back down in the hole.
That's right.
Keep going until you keep bouncing off the wall until you hit that high score.
When you look back over your career, what's the thing that you look back on and you say, man, if I didn't have this, I wouldn't be where I am today?
Man, that's hard because I've never had any. I've never had a quitter. I've never had a not go get it attitude, because I think if I would have stayed working on the drilling rigs, I mean, I'd be in neighbor's corporate office building rigs. That's just my mentality. You know, people ask, you know, when is enough enough? To me, there never is enough. Whether, you know, and when I say that, not just financially, but me just mentally, spiritually, or whatever, I just got that constant drive. I mean, you know, working where I work now, I'm lucky I don't travel near as much as I used to, but when I'm at home, I'm always dicking with something, you know. You're going to think I'm stupid. So
It's too late for that.
during COVID, we were sitting home, and I had a pretty big spread back home, and I had 5 acres across the creek that didn't connect to me, but I owned it, and it was a pain in the ass. So I had a buddy of mine asked me if I'd sell it. Yep, I sold it to him. They put a house on it. His little old boy, Mr. Roger, he said, you got any work I can do this summer? I said, what do you need money for, buddy? He said, oh, buy me a truck. I said, man, we'll figure something out. And I got to thinking, I loaded that kid up one day. His school was out. No, yeah, it just got out. And I had a 32-foot tandem axle low bore trailer. We go to Grapeland, Texas. I bought 500 watermelons out of the field. And I literally
Did you thump every one of them?
No.
All right. Well, just give me 500 of those.
They load them for you.
Well, that's nice.
You know? And I literally was just like, you know, little boy, you know, we figured it up. So I told him, I'm going to go buy these watermelons. I'm going to give you $1 watermelon for every one you sell. He said, okay. And I thought, you know, it would take us 2 weeks, sell these watermelons. He'll make him $400 or $500. Probably throw 50 or 60 of them in the trash because it done rotted. We go over, we get them watermelons. We come back, and I have a friend of mine that cuts my hair. And right there in front of her salons, right there on Main Street in Fairfield. And I said, can I put the watermelon trailer out there? She said, sure. So I get some signs of Grapeland watermelon. No, Grapeland's the watermelon capital of Texas.
Right, if you're going to get a watermelon, that's where you get it.
So we set up. I get him set up. I got him a little cooler full of water. He's got a phone. I said, you need me, you call me. I'm going to house air conditioning.
Right.
I call and check on that boy about 4 o'clock. And I said, how's it going? He said, it's been good, Mr. Roger. How good? He said, we're going to need another load of watermelons in the morning.
He sold 500 watermelons?
I said, do what? He said, hold on. He said, there's 23 watermelons on the trailer.
Oh, my God.
I get in the truck and I drive up there. I'm like, this kid can't count maybe.
Right.
There's 23 watermelons on that trailer, Justin. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
Now, you told him you'd give him $1 a watermelon.
I did. I stuck to
Did he sell them for 50 cents a watermelon?
No, we were selling.
Okay.
So
all right.
I was buying them by the pound, and through my years of career, my math got pretty good, so I could able to figure out what the watermelon.
It's funny you quit school in math class.
Exactly.
And your math got good.
But
that's pretty
it's just like
outstanding,
anything
really.
else, man. You pull your truck and trailer on the scales. That way you empty. You go little watermelons that come back. That
Right.
way you.
Pay
So
by the pound.
I had it figured out. Them watermelons cost me about $5 a piece.
Okay.
I sell them for 10. Paid him $1. I figured 50 cents a watermelon for my gas, and the rest of it money went in the beer jug.
It's not a terrible day. Casual income.
Justin, we done it all summer.
Just one after another.
I was going to Grapeland 3 to 4 times a week buying watermelons. James Hulse was clowning me on Facebook because I was putting on there watermelon pimp.
Well, I'd tell James Hulse to eat a dick because you're killing it on the watermelon game.
He used to clown,
In fact, we can call him right now and tell him that if you want.
Dude, I done that. I didn't do it this. I did do this last year. My brother helped me, but we done that. And 4th of July weekend, the week of 4th of July, I was making 2 trips a day to Grapeland.
Getting 500 a trip?
Yes, sir. Because I figure that's the only way to do it. Is to get that
Makes
quantity.
sense. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, because your gas over and back, my big old truck, it gets 12 miles a gallon loaded or empty.
Yeah.
You know, so But yeah, and then, so
That might be a function of how you drive it. You ever think of that?
yeah,
Okay.
it cuts off at 98.
That's what you said.
It sees it pretty often.
Yeah.
But we'd go to Corsicana, then we'd come back to Fairfield. We go to Corsicana, come back to Fairfield. Well, we went to Corsicana, and a buddy of mine owns a barbecue joint on the other side of the tracks.
The best kind.
And I asked him, I said, Kamar, someone come sell watermelons. He said, all right, come over to the barbecue place. And we get up there, and I said, man, we okay? He said, ain't nobody going to mess with you up here. Hey, 2 o'clock, we were done on a Saturday. Had 500 watermelons. At 2 o'clock, we were done.
So next time you get a load, I need to know because my wife loves watermelons.
I eat my weight in it.
Yeah, I love watermelon. Are these seedless or seed?
So you get either one.
She likes seed, prefers seedless. But you let me know next time. Fairfield's not a bad drive.
I'm probably going to do it again this year just as, it's not.
Did you name this company?
Watermelon Pimp.
There you go, boy. That's a good one. That's a good one, man.
I put the watermelon pimps in town, and boy, that would just.
I'm putting that in the title as part of your founded Watermelon Pimp.
Watermelon Pimp, but
we'll do that.
We've done that every year since COVID. They had just started lightening some of the restrictions up on COVID, so we went and got watermelons, and we was stabilis. I won't say grounded, but nobody would see you, even though the government started lifting some of the restrictions.
I think a lot of those companies use that as a great opportunity to not have to entertain a sales call.
No shit.
Yeah.
I think so, because nobody was seeing you. So we were sitting at home, and our CEO at the time, we had to have Teams calls. Started out once a week.
Zoom and Teams.
Then it started twice a week. Then it started once a day.
Oh my God.
So you could see where everybody was.
Make sure everybody was at least putting on a shirt.
So I figured out on Teams, you can make that background whatever you want it.
Anything you want. Yeah.
So I'd go get him set up at the watermelon joint and come back to the house and tend to my business. And then, once you got to making money, shoot, I went and bought a generator. I bought him a water cooler fan because it was hot.
Yeah, we upgrade. We're good.
It was hot. Bought some of them pop-up 10x10 tents, covered the trailer with it. And, I mean, that boy had a blast. He said, hey.
Did he get a truck out of the deal?
He did. He didn't get it that first year. I think he ended up getting it that second year. And I had talked to him. That place I was at, I sold it, and I moved outside of Fairfield. But, yeah, it was I was like, man, this is accident.
That's awesome. But think about what you're doing there. You're teaching that kid that
hustle.
There's a hustle to it. There's a value to it. And when things are going well, capitalize on that.
Exactly.
And you do what you have to do to capitalize on. I doubt you wanted to go back and get watermelons 2 times a day. But damn it, the dollars made sense to do it.
The dollars made sense, man.
So you got to do it, man.
You got to do it, and it's all, hustle and more hustle, and after that first load, I was actually, like you said, a lesson, not only for that young man, but for my daughter. My daughter was in College Station, sitting on her ass, not doing nothing, on my payroll, living at the barracks, most expensive place in College Station to live.
Why not?
And I'm like, once you come home and sell watermelons, well, what am I going to make? $1 a watermelon? Well, there ain't no money. I'm like, come sell watermelons.
Just come see.
Yeah. But,
did she?
No.
No.
Spoiled, man. I spoiled my kids.
That's
I spoiled them.
I don't have a dog in that fight, man.
I spoiled them.
I did too. My wife asked me one time, this was years ago, she goes, do you think our kids think we're rich? I said, why wouldn't they? They get literally everything they want at any point. We have nice stuff. No, we're not rich, but we're definitely not poor.
My kids, all of them, I've raised in home. I buy you your first car, and I'll pay for your college. Outside that, you're on your own. And my brother used to tell me, why are you going to buy the first car? Because my dad did that for us. Well, because I want to, and I always bought them that car their junior year. So they'd have a brand new car going in their senior year. That's the big year. And they got a good, reliable transportation to go to college. So the 2 oldest ones, Allison and TJ, they were, 11 months apart. They were my bonus kids. I don't believe in step kids; they're bonus kids.
Yeah.
And so I went and bought their cars, brand new, and it was pretty cool. So I made a deal on them, went to my bank, and I co-signed for them.
To build their credit.
Exactly.
That's smart.
I had a bunch of people not understand why I did it, but that was it.
It makes sense.
Mom and Dad paid for them. And then when Cody and Melanie, of course, Cody and Melanie's 3 years apart, so I went and bought Cody a brand new, and bought them brand new Mustangs, little V6. Back in, they were $23,000-$24,000, cheap.
Sure.
V6.
Good looking car.
Ain't gonna get no insurance. Goes crazy because it's V6, and sharp looking cars. They're proud of them. So I done with Cody and Melanie. I remember getting my ass chewed out. I called my wife. They were in Boston. My oldest daughter, bonus daughter, lives in Boston, and they were up there on vacation. And I said, "Well, hey, I'm at the car lot, and I'm gonna email you some papers, signed for Cody's car." She said, "Okay." So emailed them up her to her. She signed them. Well, I went down here to the bank, and I borrowed money and bought Melanie a car. 14. So she had a car like, 2-3 years before she could even drive.
Right.
And I remember, Mama didn't think it was very.
Did appreciate that.
So where we lived, we had about a quarter-mile driveway. And Melanie would get out there after school, barely could see over steering wheel, and she'd drive that so much up down that driveway till we made her get out of it, up down that driveway. She's 24 years old today. She's still driving the same car.
That's awesome.
So,
yeah, my youngest daughter, she wanted an FJ Cruiser, so you can't buy those new.
mm-mm.
We bought her one that's older than her, and that thing, it's indestructible. I mean, Toyota's amazing. I mean, I drive a Tundra. My wife drives a 4Runner. It's a good product, but I'm a big believer in that same thing too. Like, I'll get you your first car. I'll get you what you want, within reason, and then after that, it's on you. You figure it out, and it seemed to work out. So, man, this has been awesome. So, where do you go from here?
Justin, like I said, man, I think I'm good. I'm happy with what I do. Guys, I work with a great group of guys. My boss, Steve Stump, he lives in Columbus, Ohio. I was employee number 1 at Stabilis. He was employee number 2. So me and him's been together all these years. He's an older guy. He's none of us are never too old to learn. And even at my age, Steve is a great mentor. And working side by side him, and he's who I report to, but it's not like it's like you're working with your buddy.
Yeah.
He's in Texas every other week. So I come to Houston when he's here. I'm middle in Odessa. I'm divorced now. Got a single father of a 5-year-old. We share custody with her mom. I have what they call expanded standard. So I have River from Friday evening, or from when she gets out of school Friday till she goes to school Tuesday morning. And then on my off week, I pick her up Sunday at 3 and have her till Tuesday morning. So I have her every Sunday and Monday night.
And she still lives in the Fairfield area?
Tig. Her mom lived 8 miles down the road.
Yeah.
So I'm able to work from home Mondays because I have her. So, being able to do that, working for this company, it's a very, very family oriented. The family are great Christian people. One thing I really focused on the last 4 or 5 years. And you do this when you get older. You kind of start making sure your face a little more in line than it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And working for a company that recognizes that, and they're in line with that too. This is great. So I don't see it would take a big old bunch of money for me to do something.
It's interesting you say that. I had a similar experience with Wildcat. And not to go too far into the history, but I've known the founder of Wildcat, Aaron, for 20 years now, and I got a call a couple of years ago about a great opportunity that would have been if they'd have called me when I was 35, I would have jumped through my ass to try to make that happen. But now I'm like, you know what, man, I got a pretty good life, pretty good balance, make great money, a great company. I'm good. And it took me a while to realize that there's a difference in contentment and complacency. And I find myself finally in a season of contentment. And it sounds like you do too.
Yeah. You know, people ask me, and I get calls frequently, hey, let's go do this. Hey, let's go do that. And they're like, why not? And I'm like, man, there's a huge difference in being a man and working for the man. And working for the man is pretty nice right now.
It's not terrible.
I ain't got to worry about making that payroll, tax, just all this other goofy stuff. And, you know, and I make my own schedule. I just, you know, I got to perform like anybody else. You know, me and Casey are friends on a personal level, but, you know, I work for him. He's the boss, and I don't get treated any different than anybody, and I wouldn't expect to. You know, so, you know, I go to West Texas, you know, a week a month. I go to South Texas a week a month, you know, and then kind of juggle back and forth down here when Steve's here. I mean, I'll be back up here tomorrow to have lunch with a customer Friday. So I just, you know, I wouldn't trade it for the world. And, you know, being able to, you know, do that. And, you know, one other thing, you know, I remember a guy asking me, if you had it all over to do again, what would you change? When me and him was talking a while back. And I said, you know, I don't know if I changed anything, but there's one thing I missed on. He said, what? I said, man, it's like I got up and I went to work one day, and I come home, and my kids are grown. I have a chance to do that with my little one. I mean, it's just, you on Facebook?
Yeah.
Hit me up. You'll see.
I will.
She's like my best friend.
So it's interesting you say that. So my granddaughter is 2. She lives at home with us. And I made this comment to my wife not even a month or 2 ago that when my kids were that age, I was busy trying to take over the world and build a career and all those things. And while I didn't experience a lot of time away from them, I probably didn't appreciate that as much as I could. Having Mila there now at that age and being able to see her at that age and being in a different place in life where I can sort of, like I pretty much do what I want, you know, I get to appreciate that now. So I understand 100% what you're saying, and it's invaluable.
Yeah, it was cool. You know, I was probably one of the only people in the world that like thumbs up when Corona hit, because we'd been traveling, man, and it was Corona come right after my divorce was final. So that previous year, I spent a trainload of time on the road, hotels. So, and my daughter's mother's a nurse. So right after Corona hit, me and her was not talking at all. I mean, it was very open wounds.
Yeah.
But she called and she said, I need your help. And I'm like,
well, I bet that was hard for her to do.
How'd those words taste coming out of your mouth?
Yeah.
And anyways, she's like, look, little county hospital that she works in, she said, everybody in every patient we have has Corona. Half of them are on ventilators. We're losing like one a day, or shipping them out because we're losing them. I'm scared I'm going to bring this crap home. I said, I'm on my way. So I went and got my daughter.
Yeah.
I had her for like 8 weeks, 6, 8 weeks. And FaceTiming mom, and it was killing her. River was
she's 5
not even
now,
2.
so she had to be like 2.
Yeah, she wouldn't even, just barely, not even 2. So River, it didn't, she was too young. It didn't like bother her like it would today if she would a long period of time without seeing mama.
Yeah.
She was FaceTiming. Mom was FaceTiming.
Sure.
So she was like, thought this was a cool game, you know? But, and I do, you know, it killed her mom. But where I was going with this, we were having all those damn Teams calls. And I got a, you know, year and a half year old daughter. Wake up out of bed, and she's in a diaper. She may or may not have her shirt on. Computer's here.
or sitting in your lap.
It come in there and sit in my lap with her sippy cup and pointing, who dat? And we got an email not too long after that. No more background effects from children. But dude, but no, that whole time, man, we rode all over the place. We hog hunted every night. I remember
Now you're talking about language. Now that I know that that's an option, or is it still an option?
Oh, every day.
Well, I'm coming to Fairfield.
Dogs, helicopters, night vision. We got it.
Okay, well, now you're on camera saying all of that, and I feel like that's an invitation, and I'm going.
Hey, we live in. I got some guys that's got some of the greatest hog dogs you've ever run behind, and ask James.
James had to go?
So
you invited James?
This was years ago.
Okay.
Have you ever met Zach, his partner? So Zach and James come up, and James wants to go hog hunting with dogs. I said, we'll set it up.
Like sticking the hogs or shooting them?
Sticking them. That's what they wanted to do.
Dude, that's intense, man.
Zach wanted to come. And Zach is cool. You got to meet Zach. He's a pretty boy.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Hair, I mean, and
if you break this stuff, I don't own it.
I would have never have thought he would have reacted like he did. We get down there, and I have a buddy of mine. This place was made for hog hunting. It was a 500-acre high fence.
Oh, it's perfect.
We'd go catch them in the wild and turn them loose in there.
Of course.
And I call these buddies of mine. I said, man, I got some guys coming. These personal friends of mine. We need to show them a good time. We turn them dogs loose, and them son of bitches bolt. And I mean, they don't go from here to here, and they track. And James and Zach both got a drink of something. It's alcohol in their hand, and we turn the pit bull loose. He snatches on, and then here we go. And we're running through briars, ducking, weaving, and bobbing. And Zach, I give Zach the knife, and he's just like, I mean, this facial expression
He's full primal.
All primal. And I'm like, dude, leave it in and twist it. Just don't keep stabbing him. And
don't hold it like this. Like, come on, man.
And he's twisting, he's pulling, he's twisting. Never spills his drink.
Well, that's outstanding.
Never spills it. It's like a pro.
That is outstanding. So my wife, the first time I wanted to take my daughters hunting, she bought me a hog hunt. And because I was like, I'll take them hog hunting. And she bought one where you stick them. And I told her, I was like, I'm not taking my kids on that. And she goes, why not? I said, that's probably not a great first introduction to hunting because it's pretty brutal. And even today, I still prefer just give me a rifle. Like I have a 300 Blackout that's all decked out with that stuff. And it's fun to go shoot hogs with. I'd prefer to shoot them. But, I mean, either way is fun.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down, share your story. It's fascinating to hear the story of somebody that goes from sitting in math class, deciding this is not for me, to here we sit today. And man, it's just a blessing to get to hear your story. And I know you feel blessed in life. And so,
man, I am.
Thank you so much for sharing that with me. And man, if there's ever anything at all that I can do for you, please don't hesitate to ask.
No, dude, I appreciate it. And man, I appreciate you. Appreciate the opportunity, James. Bringing it up, part I left out, James, when he was at Centerpoint, he was my single biggest gas customer. That's how me and James met.
Okay.
I used to sell him a trainload of LNG. I mean, bunch. So he's a great guy.
Yeah, James is awesome.
I appreciate the opportunity, man. Being in kind of been in the same category with James and Tim and Josh, man, kind of feel good,
Well, you're elevating the group by just being in there. You're helping that group out for sure.
Yeah.
But no, it's not a bad group to be a part of. And man, I just appreciate you sharing your story with me.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.